salt without any.
That's the most common question.
Not always. It's good that
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'll call the Village Board of Oregon to order for Monday, November 18th, 2024. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Beshin. Here. Higgins.
Here.
Mankey.
Here.
Kirchdorfer.
Here.
McDaniel. Here. Peterson.
Here.
And Van Campen.
Here. Thank you. Item 3, approval of November 4th, 2024 Village Board's meeting minutes if correct and corrections mistakes, if any. Looking for motion approved. We have Tim and Jason. Corrections, comments. Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, public appearances, comments, and communications. Item for discussion and/or possible action. A public comment. This part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board, including items both on and off the agenda. 15 minutes will be provided for this item with a 3-minute maximum per speaker. Anyone here for public comments? Public comments. Seeing none. Moving on. Item 5. Approval of vouchers in the amount of $447,443.24. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Tom and Tim. Questions, comments? Anyone? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate, whoops, I'm sorry. Even got a note to remind me.
Mankey.
Yes.
Kirchdorfer.
Yes.
McDaniel.
Yes.
Beshin.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
And Van Campen.
Six A through 6D, looking for a motion to approve. Jason and Carleen. C for property located at 1042 Park Street, dividing one lot into 3 lots. Commission and staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Oh, there, you're over there, Elise.
Just trying to keep you on your toes, Phil.
Okay.
So as you may have read from the memo, just want to give you a little bit of background since you'll probably see some site plan stuff coming or maybe some conditional use permits coming up for this in the coming months. But this is a lot. Lot 1 is currently where Max Creek Outdoors is located. So other side of Park Street is Culver's. Just to the east there is the Sleep Inn Hotel, and then the Rosewood Apartments, and then a stormwater area here. So the lot is not fully developed, obviously, where lots 2 and 3 are just an open grassy field. A gentleman named Jeff Kramer Development has the areas lots 2 and 3 under contract right now, and then after this would be subdivided, would then sell lot 3 to likely Urso Builders, who's out of McFarland. They're looking to do a small, like about 6-unit townhome development that would be facing Concord. There's a lot of multifamily duplexes, townhomes right around there. And then lot 2, he's looking at doing a mixed or a commercial building, probably with a couple of tenant spaces, probably a drive-through in at least one of those. So could be retail, food and beverage, that kind of thing. So this is a good example of infill development on a really underutilized parcel in a busy area of the village. So, and all the comments by the village engineer have been addressed, that updated comment letters in this packet now.
Jason? That's a motion?
That's motion.
Motion to
Sorry.
approve, that's all right. And Amanda? Questions or comments for Elise? Carleen?
So I'm just assuming that lot 2, the easement will be from Park Street into that, and vice versa for lot 3 will be from Concord. Nothing's listed there, but I'm making that assumption since they're between the streets.
The driveway.
Yeah.
Access, yeah, there's still, there's a concept plan that was at Plan Commission last week where there was a drive kind of that maybe those should just be separate so we don't have traffic coming through that neighborhood. So they still have to come back with their site plan review, but at the moment I expect that those would just be two separate driveways that would not be connected. But there is a pedestrian walkway already that connects for the Rosewood apartment folks over to Concord Drive so they can get to that neighborhood, walk their dogs. So just mentioned that that should be something that maybe can be accessible for the people that live in those townhomes. So at least there's a pedestrian access up to Park Street. But really no need for them to drive up there. And I
Right.
think they would prefer that, a little bit less traffic coming by their homes too.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion by Jason, second by Amanda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Elise. Item 8, unfinished business. Items for discussion and or possible action. A, separation agreement, waiver and release between the Village of Oregon and Jeffrey Rao. Village Administrator recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Tom and Amanda, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8B, 2025 municipal budget. 1, public hearing. Any resident or taxpayer of the Village of Oregon shall have an opportunity to be heard on the proposed 2025 municipal budget. Any staff comments ahead of that?
All right. I don't have too much for tonight, just a couple of wrap-up comments. So, and all of these except for one are in my memo in the packet, but I just want to highlight, we talked about the fire and EMS levy limit exception possibly being in jeopardy at the last meeting. Fortunately, we had a meeting with the DOR and they came to the conclusion to grant us an exception for this year for the amount that we had planned on using. So we don't have to change anything this year for our budget, which is great. And I listed out a few individuals in my memo that helped support that and in meeting with the DOR and achieving that. So I just want to highlight them: State Representative Jenna Jacobson, Senator Mark Spreitzer, Senator Howard Markline, their staff, and then the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, as well as Attorney Punches. We're all integral in achieving that and going through that process and having that meeting and getting what we got. So one thing that we do need to highlight for this is that this exception to the exception is just for a year at the moment. So they're granting us this for this budget cycle, but next year we would have to remove that amount from our levy because obviously we have a year in order to correct it to what the statute evidently requires. So we have to keep that in mind. However, in the conversation with the DOR, they indicated that they're going to take another look at the statute and their interpretation of the statute. And so there's potentially an opportunity here where this may not be an issue next year. So we'll have to keep our eye on that. Some of the legislators that were involved in helping us also indicated that maybe they would legislate either an interpretation change or maybe to address our specific issue. So there might be a few avenues to getting this issue addressed next year. But for now, that's where it lands. I also had a couple other minor things in the budget. Many of them were just public works related, a couple of promotions and some budgetary adjustments. There was one thing I had that I did not have in my memo that came up late last week after the packet was published. We identified that in the library operating budget, and this is to the benefit of the budget, we did not include $9,500 in interest revenue for that budget, which should have been in there. And so that means they have $9,500 more in property taxes that they need in their budget. And so what we're recommending to the board is for the resolution to approve. We suggest that you approve it with one change, which would be reducing the property tax amount for the library operating fund by $9,500 and increasing their interest revenue by $9,500, and then adding that $9,500 in property taxes onto the general fund side. Beyond that, I think we're ready for approval.
Okay, quickly, any resident or taxpayer of the Village of Oregon to be heard on the proposed 2025 municipal budget? Anyone? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. B2, resolution number 24-33, adoption of the 25 municipal budget. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Amanda and Jason. Now with, yeah, yes, right. Okay, we've been visiting and revisiting this for several meetings, but comments, questions? Lynn?
So Martin, I just want to clarify something you just said. So glad that the DOR got this resolved for us for this year. However, obviously the second piece of this is the levy change for next year. Am I understanding this right, that you're crossing our fingers that if a new interpretation would come out in our favor for the way that we had originally interpreted this, we may not have to suffer that second consequence of the levy limit adjustment, that we would just move forward as if this has always been the interpretation, this will now always be?
We'll have to see how the DOR will handle it, assuming that they make that change in interpretation. I think my approach is to, I guess, see where this sort of ends up going with their relook at their interpretation. And if it appears that our situation isn't necessarily going to be addressed from this year, then I want to advocate to our legislators to correct that legislatively and carve that out specifically for us.
Great. And then my last second comment is the one name that you didn't put in your memo, because you drafted the memo, is your name, and we should thank you for the work and diligence that you took on this and the patience that you had to have in waiting for these decisions to come down. So I genuinely appreciate the work that you did to remedy this quietly and without a lot of work on our end.
Tom? No?
Defer. Thank you.
No? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion by Amanda, second by Jason. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item C, resolution number 24-34, adopting the 2025 employee wage schedule and setting 2025 wages for current employees. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Look for a motion first, Lynn and Carleen. Questions, comments? Tim?
I had a couple of questions. One, in the one example on page 76 of the packet, I think it was, or no, 76 of the document, was talking about like reclassifying certain jobs. Does the person in that job get a raise when their job gets reclassified? Or would that just be if we were to replace that person, we'd use that new pay scale for them?
It depends, I guess. If the position gets reclassified, it changes where it is on the scale. I think I would prefer that we also change the individual who is in that to fit to whatever that is, but that is contingent upon financial ability to do so. Okay. So if we can accommodate it financially, I would always recommend we do that, but if not, there could be situations where that we can't.
Please.
I had a second question. I noticed that in terms of health benefits, there are two different plans, one for the union employees and one for the non-union employees, and they weren't that different. Would it make sense just to put them on the same plan?
One's negotiated.
Yeah, they're on the same, they're on the
Right,
same
but just put
plan.
the-
Yeah, but they have the opportunity to negotiate
Right.
their contribution rate. I mean, I think from an efficiency standpoint, could be something that we try to negotiate with them, because it would help us administratively.
I was thinking even just in terms of putting the non-union employees on the union plan.
We could, and we'd have to look at the cost. And I think this year it would be a greater cost. Now, some years, I think there was maybe 1 year in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years that I went back and looked where it was actually reversed, where the non-union actually had a better deal than the union, just because of the way that the verbiage and the percentages worked out. So it can kind of work both ways, but typically, yeah, the union has a slightly better deal. But we could look at trying to match those. And
Yeah, my question was more about the administrative cost of handling two different plans, and would you save?
it's not significant. I mean,
Okay.
it's just a calculation on a spreadsheet, and we would,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion by Lynn, second by Carleen. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item D, resolution number 24-35, adopting sewer service charges effective December 31st, 2024. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Tom?
Make a motion.
Thank you. And Carleen, questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 8E, proposal for professional surveying services with JSC Professional Services Incorporated for the Senior Center and Community Gymnasium Building Project. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Jason and Amanda, questions, comments? Carleen?
I have a question that, because I'm not on the plan commission, I couldn't ask this question during the plan commission meeting. So one of the things that the folks who are making recommendations around the downtown plan suggested was the possibility that the fire station would move someplace else, and perhaps the fire station could be revamped, and I was a little surprised by that. And I'm kind of wondering if there's any thoughts on that, and if there's, I mean, it just sat there, and you were there too, and.
Are there thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean,
there's
yeah,
thoughts on
there's
that.
thoughts on that. I'm sure there are thoughts on that, so I'm just
Yeah, and I
opening
did.
up that can of worms.
Yeah, I did speak with him. He actually did ask that same question. I think it was maybe the last meeting or the meeting before when we had kind of an update to the downtown plan. That particular planning commission member was at the downtown resident kind of walking tour we had in September. So I know that was something that he brought up. And I spoke with him after the meeting again about the same idea that was brought up.
Pardon me for interrupting, and I didn't catch this, but this is not really on the agenda.
Sure. Yeah.
So I really can't discuss it. You could add it to a future agenda.
Well, it seems like we're approving something that's doing something else, and I just kind of wondered.
It's a fair question, but I just want to follow the rules, and it's not really being noticed that we would discuss switching the fire station with the senior center, and you can see why that would
No,
probably.
I'm not asking about switching them. I'm just asking if this is something that's been I don't know, I mean, we're approving money to be spent, and I just wonder if it's been something that's been discussed before we approve money to be spent, and if it's something that we'd rather not do.
Okay.
I mean, I'll withdraw my
Well,
question.
no,
but I'm
it's
still
not
curious.
necessarily, we'll just consider that to be a comment. If you want to put it on a future agenda, you could. But
The agenda item is for professional surveying services for the senior center project site.
Right, exactly. Okay.
if I may, I feel like we could probably approve this and still have that greater discussion. That's, I think, the way I'm understanding it anyway.
And related to the downtown master plan, those discussions will be coming to this body as the draft agreement starts to come forward. So I would anticipate in the next meeting or 2 meetings that will be on the agenda for discussion.
Tom?
I guess I'd go with Amanda on this from the standpoint that the work that's going to be done here is determining the suitability of the site, water
Right.
tables, water levels,
It
and
was
we're going to.
just a question. I don't
I'm not
need an
disagreeing. I'm
answer.
saying that that's work, regardless of what we decide that comes up later on, that's the information we're going to have. Because any kind of development in that site, any kind of work is going to be valuable. So
Okay.
I would continue to move, I would advocate moving forward with this, just so the other projects stay on timeline unless we change it.
Other comments or questions on this item? Okay, we have a motion by Jason, second by Amanda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 8F, Section 179D, Tax Deduction Allocation Memorandum of Understanding with OPM Architects Incorporated. Pretty detailed explanation of something that can be confusing within the packet, so I'm looking for a motion to approve first of all. Tim. And Lynn. Okay, now questions or comments?
Phil, if I can just provide a quick
Please.
couple comments.
Yeah.
So if you recall, when we were wrapping up the library project, OPN was the architect for that project, and as part of the agreement with OPN, we had agreed to allocate our Section 179D tax deduction that was available to us under federal law. But because, of course, the village is a not-for-profit entity and doesn't pay taxes, it can't take advantage of that, right? Which is why there's this mechanism, federal law, to actually allocate that tax deduction over to an architect or other person who's responsible for putting those into place. As part of that conversation with OPN, they were gracious enough to offer us in return for that allocation, because it's real dollars for them at the end of the day. But they offered to provide us up to $15,000 worth of services. And so the terms of this MOU are what I would say are largely aspirational, but the idea is that they capture what our conversation, what our agreement was, with the idea being that we're not entering into any separate agreement with them now. Obviously, we've got some projects with them going on in the future, right? They're doing the initial planning for the senior center project. But as we continue to move forward, that this will be some benefit that the village should be able to realize from one of our contracts with OPN in the future.
Any other comments? Anyone? Lynn?
I guess the only question I had, which based on your explanation probably doesn't matter anymore, was that there wasn't a timeline on that, meaning like we didn't have to use the $15,000 of in-kind services until a specific date, or did I miss that?
So in Section 7, which is the second page of the agreement, the term of this MOU is through the end of the year next year. So we do have to use it with them by the end of that time.
Okay, but your assessment is that we'll easily have projects probably coming through OPN in the next year, that's not going to be a difficult deadline to.
And we've met with them before, and Jennifer can talk a little bit more about this. And I know that there's potentially plans at the library, there's potential plans at the village hall and other places
Right.
where we could potentially use.
Okay.
And that could be, everything as comprehensive as like full-blown design for, the new solar system, photovoltaic system. Or it could just be, let's just game things out. Let's do some initial designs and some concept stuff, and then be able to take that to another consultant if we wanted to.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 9, new business items for discussion on or possible action. A ordinance number 24-23, an ordinance amending section 7.02 sub 4 sub A sub 16 of the Village Code of Ordinances modifying prohibited parking restrictions on South Main Street. Jason?
I'll move.
All right. And Tim. Comments or questions?
I guess I do have, I guess it said that it was reviewed by the police department and the street department. I guess, was there any concerns? It looks like that, I didn't see that street as being that wide. I mean, it does narrow the street up quite a bit if there's parking on both sides. Well, were there any concerns about that when you looked at it, or?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
The street is going to be, you're going to put parking all along the side of that street, and that is a fairly heavily traveled street. I guess in street I drive almost every day. I guess seeing parking on both sides, it would seem like it would narrow the available lanes by quite a bit.
I think it's still wide enough, especially in that area, but. Yeah.
So this is a standard 36-foot street cross-section through here, which is pretty common in narrower local streets versus something like South Perry Parkway. And in other areas of the village, we do have those cross-sections with parking on both sides. One concern that was raised several times by neighbors out here is that they felt that vehicles traveled far too fast down this street relative to the speed limit. And they were hoping that having that visual barrier of having parking on both sides would almost slow down traffic as folks had to focus a little bit more. So at least from an engineering perspective, this is not something we'd worry about being too narrow.
Amanda?
Yeah, so, I mean, this is my neighborhood. So, I agree, the traffic goes too fast. My only concern then is because it goes uphill from the downtown, headed south on South Main, there's kind of a big hill there that bicyclists really have to work hard, and like if you have the parked cars there, which cars can park there now, to be fair, but if you have cars on the other side, do we think there's enough room for car traffic and a bicyclist who's moving slowly going up that hill?
So my response to that would be, that is on the driver to still yield to the bicyclist, regardless of how wide that roadway is.
Sure.
Lynn?
So, yeah, I think I'm okay with this. My concern comes from the crossing on this street, because now we have that new sidewalk. Make sure that I'm right about this. We have that new sidewalk on the other side, right? And for instance, like my kids are walking with a family member often in this area, and they are driving so fast down this road that I'm wondering if at least one of the three, Kierstead State or whatever the other one is, if there could be a marked crosswalk to get people across the street to that sidewalk, just so that if cars are really going quickly and they're standing by a parked car and unable to be seen very well, at least there's a marked crosswalk that someone should be paying more attention to. That would be my only suggestion. I'm okay moving this resolution forward without it. It's just a suggestion for at least those families in the area that are now utilizing the new sidewalk.
We can certainly do that.
Okay.
That is absolutely something we can look at.
Anybody else? Okay, a motion by Jason, second by Tim. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Aye.
Sorry?
Opposed.
Opposed? Pardon?
Opposed.
Oh, sorry.
Pardon me? One opposed.
Got it.
Thank you. Item 10, reports of village officers, department heads, and consultants. Information only, no action by the village board will be taken. See reports in the remaining packet. A, the village administrator report. Questions, comments? B, finance director report, annual building permits, impact fees, and connection fees collected ending October 2024. None. Item C, Police Chief Report. Notice of revisions to the body worn camera and missing persons policies. Something to add, Chief?
No, I tried to just detail it out in my memo, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone? No? Okay. Village Clerk Report, election participation flyer.
I have nothing to report. I've gotten a lot of phone calls about people making sure that their absentee ballots were counted or their votes were counted, and this is just the way that voters can do that.
But that takes a while to update, right? That's not.
Actually, it gives me a good intro to thank you once again for letting the clerk's department purchase Badger books, because I can share this news now, because with the help of Badger books, not only did it expedite our closing procedures at the end of the night, I was able to upload everybody's participation by 4 o'clock the next day. Wow. So,
Very nice.
which was amazing. And it would have taken me literally, and my staff, literally weeks to get everything entered if we were using paper.
And can you report what the percentage of participation was?
The percentage turnout for the village was 94%.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how many new registrations on?
On
Yes.
election day, I gotta go back out and look, because I don't have to enter those all anymore. Give me a second. But very exciting, very, very exciting. We had 425 new registrations on election day, and over 180 during early voting as well. So those I had to enter. But yeah, incredible. So amazing Oregon for voting.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, 11, announcements and miscellaneous business. A, announcements, comments, communications, upcoming meetings and events, and miscellaneous business. Village board members may provide brief statements, but no discussion or action of the body should occur. Tom?
I've gotten several, actually more than several, comments in relationship to the traffic that the patterns that have changed on County CC and Alpine, Jefferson and Alpine. It had already increased considerably with the library coming out here in the village hall, but with the post office. There are actually some backups starting to occur, and people get frustrated waiting a long time, and people are hurrying across maybe at times when there isn't really adequate space. And I guess we need to, I don't know if that's a future agenda item or where we could go with those comments, but I think we need to start looking at that a little more seriously. There's been a lot of, I know it's on the longer term plan, but at least if you had a comment.
Just gonna note, we did do a traffic study from Ash Street, actually all the way out to Fish Hatchery Road in partnership with the county, through a engineering consultant, this summer, and got those results back. So it does have some, if you'd like to see that too, it has sort of current conditions and then short, mid, longer term, kind of the performance of those intersections, how they're expected to change over time, and then what are the recommended improvements or intersection kind of changes to be made. So it looks at all those intersections, Ash, Alpine, Bergamot, and then for the county out at D and CC as well. But yeah, still in the CIP with that schedule of, I think, 2027 design and 28 construction, since the Wolf Street northern half is sort of our next big county project. But yeah, we can probably share those results of the traffic study in a future meeting agenda if you'd like to review those.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Okay, others that wants to make announcements? Tim?
I have two things. One, just to follow up on that point, are
Well,
we?
no, we're not gonna follow up on that point because then it's discussion.
Oh, I just wanted to
Sorry.
ask a question. Can't do that
No,
either?
no,
Okay.
sorry.
All right. Then I will
But you can add to the future
just
agenda item.
point out that Greenbox is doing a survey on electronics recycling. If people are interested in that, look for a Greenbox survey. So,
Any else? Announcements? Carly?
Can I ask a question?
Well, as long as it's not about the
It's
the points
not,
top.
no, it's not. This is about something that was received by a lot of folks in the mail that I saw posted about having, sending information to a website if you had something large that needed to be picked up. And there was a lot of curiosity about whether that was an official thing. I knew it wasn't through the village, but there was concern that it might be some kind of scam. And I wondered if anybody knew anything about that. It's a
I
question.
don't think we're gonna
You
head
don't
down
know
that.
anything about it?
I don't think we're gonna head down that road either.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Phil?
Yes.
I do have one announcement. This will go out hopefully on the village website and social media later this week, but our conservation park master planning project that we're doing with the UW-Madison student Morgan Hackshey, and I have put together a community survey that'll be online. We'll also have a paper copy probably available at Village Hall, maybe the library too. Hopefully like November 20th to December 20th or so, we'll have that live, but folks want to participate. It's the concerning the future of the conservation parks, so Keller Alpine, West Side Park, Lerner, Dega DiMaggio, Florida Avenue. I think that's all 6. So lots of pictures and maps and kind of questions for folks. It's only about a 10 to 15 minute survey, so keep your eyes peeled for a post and links for that survey to be out later this week.
Yeah.
Please share.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. 11B, future agenda items. This item gives the village board members the opportunity to place a topic on a future agenda for discussion and or potential action. Lynn?
I have a question, so I know, we're really making you work today, Phil.
That's all right. I
Let
got
me
one
know if I
strike against me,
can't.
so I'm being a little careful here.
Yeah, you let me know if this is not something that you want me to ask. We have future agenda items coming, and I was wondering if we could get an indicator of when we could potentially expect those to come on a future agenda. And the 2 I'm wondering about would be referendum details based on the community survey that ended, and the downtown master plan, which it was indicated is probably coming next meeting.
Yeah, probably one of the December.
So, under the village administrator report, there is a goals and tasks spreadsheet. And under the referendum, it will be on the December 2nd village board, the next village board meeting. And then the, I'm sorry, what was the other one? The Downtown Master Plan?
Yeah.
That one says December meetings to review draft plan. So one of the December meetings.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, hearing none. Item 12, closed session business, items for discussion and or possible action. Under Wisconsin statutes 19.85, sub 1, sub E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Attendance is limited to the village board and at its discretion, any necessary staff, other officers, or other individuals whose presence is necessary for the business at hand. A, deliberate the investment of public funds, purchasing of public properties, and related negotiation strategy for future economic growth and expansion of the village. We're looking for a motion to move to closed session. Jason and Amanda, this is a roll call vote.
Higgins,
Yes.
Van Campen,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Mankey,
Yes.
Session,
Yes.
and Kirchdorfer.
Yes.
We are in closed session. Thank you.
Enjoy reading.